Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jentry Chau versus the Underworld, Season 1, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode, and Jentry kind of goes to the only place she can right now, and that's visiting her parents' grave, especially now finding out the truth about everything. And Ed's there to be there for her. And that's the sad situation, how that whole sequence plays out, because Ed is her only lifeline, technically. I mean, she still has Kit and Michael, which those both go directions this episode, but we'll get to that later. But for right now, Ed's all she kind of has. And, it's like, what's she going to do? It's like, are you going to go to Seoul? And it's like, that's still kind of the plan. But she hasn't bought the tickets yet because she hasn't really... Because it's like, yeah, she's normal now, but then it's still like, can you go back to Seoul and just leave everything behind? Like, even with all the supernatural stuff, even the Chang stuff, not even including that, just like where things are between her and Flora, like, can you just go and walk away from all of that? But then it turns out that Stella sent her a video being like, oh, is this you? And it's a TikTok Ed made showcasing Jentry using her powers and saying how scary she was. And the moment she got upset, he immediately took it down. But the thing is, he still shouldn't have put that up, especially knowing what her powers mean to her. But it's like, right, you were using me to farm content and views and stuff and increase your following. He's like, well, yes, I was doing that. I was multitasking. I mean, we know the entire season he's been doing that. He's been building up his following and stuff like that. But for her, it feels like, you were the one person left I can trust. I guess I can't trust anyone. There's a Kit thing. We're slightly in a better place, but still. The Gugu situation, that's a horrible situation. So now it's like, now this is just yet another person kind of betraying my trust, And for him, it's kind of a situation of, oh, but, you were never actually going to take me to Seoul, were you? Like, I don't think she really thought that through. I don't know if she knew she was. I mean, she had figured it out herself, so she's figuring things out on her own, and Ed probably wasn't necessarily in those equations when she was figuring stuff out, because, like I said, she hadn't figured it out on her own yet. But when it's all said and done, Ed's like, I just wanted to be scary like you told me I was, but then he's like, well, you never actually thought I was scary. She's like, no, it's actually embarrassing the more and more you try. So she's like, just how about you go to DU and just leave me alone? And for Ed, it hurt because it's like, oh, like, I guess that's how you really see me, that I'm embarrassing, huh? And he bounces, and before Jentry can apologize, he's already gone, and just, that's a heartbreaking thing. Like I said, that's the last person you had on your side, and it's just like, what you've kind of built up for yourself over the season so far is kind of all falling apart. And so she goes home, none the wiser, because I didn't even think about that. Like, of course, because she doesn't have her power, she can't see ghosts, so she has no idea what happened to Gugu. Like, none of the other ghosts communicate with her, so their telekinetic powers must have never gotten to the same way that Flora's did. Or maybe they just never, maybe it's not until they talk to Ed later in the episode, maybe that's the first time they're hearing about it. So, because in Gentry's mind, her grandmother's not interacting with her all like, oh, you're not moving stuff, you're not doing anything. Might not be able to see ghosts, but you doing your typical ghost thing of leaving a message, or it's like, oh, you're not doing any of that? Fine, whatever, I'm like, and that's just sad not knowing like what happened to her grandmother. Not grandmother, sorry, great aunt, what happened to Flora. So she tries to, well, I don't think it was at that point in the episode. I think that was later in the episode, because I think she went to Stella's first, because she kind of didn't want to. I think at that time she didn't want to immediately go back home, if I remember correctly, and so she stays with Stella for a bit and kind of explains everything. So it's like, wow, that happened. Kit's a demon. I mean, that's kind of wild. But then, like, Gentry's like, I don't have my powers, and this is kind of what I wanted, but that's always the thing, the monkey paw wish situation of be careful what you wish for, because there's always going to be fine print to every wish, and it's never always going to go the way you want it to. And it's like, yeah, you got your normal power, you got yourself, you're normal like you've always wanted to be, but what did it cost you in the end? Because now, I mean, it's not like she asked for it, and it's just like the revelations that came along the way were the price of the truth about Flora. Now things between you and Ed are where they are, and it's just like, yeah, you and Kit are in this awkward space. So it's like, what do we do? And even Stella trying to be like, yo, you should go to the dance with Michael. He asked you out, right? But she's like, no, you're like the first friend I've made since coming home. I'm not going to like screw that up. But she's like, no, me and Michael, we just never really fully worked. And it's like, you deserve to kind of be able to, once again, do what you want to do. So Stella kind of gave the cosign, which is neat because I think I brought that up last episode or maybe episode 7. I talked about that. I was like, okay, we don't know where the whole Stella and Michael situation stands. It might have been last episode, but we don't know where that stands. And I didn't know where Stella stood in all of this because she was kind of under the impression like part of the reason her and Michael broke up was because of Jentry, because it's like, oh, there's things you're trying to figure out. Oh, Gentry's who you like. And it's like, we don't know what that post, him saving her in episode 6 and everything. We don't know what that was because she doesn't even know about Michael having clairvoyant abilities, but to some extent, like he was trying to explain it a little bit, but who knows if he properly explained it after that whole ordeal. But yeah, she tries to go to school. It's Spirit Week, and Stella was telling her like, right, let's just have fun, then go to the dance and do all that. And so she she has that normal life, but there's some asterisks. Sorry, I struggle with that word sometimes. Beside that normalcy, because she's dealing with everything she's dealing with, so it's hard to just kind of enjoy it, the normalcy, because her and Ed aren't good. Once again, she thinks Gugu's not talking to her. Then she's got Wheeler breathing down her neck because he looks at her as like the ultimate evil. It's like you're the spawn of evil, yada yada, so on and so forth. You're going to do these terrible things, not knowing like at this time like she doesn't have her powers. I think that's what egged him on to do what he does at the end of the episode, is her being like, oh, go ahead and try, because she knows like, right, you're not going to find anything because I don't have my powers right now, but there's no point explaining that to you because you wouldn't believe me anyway. So he's kind of made it his life's mission. Granted, the entire town has that, but like, even with everything going on, it's not like the entire school's been chasing after her, regardless of what they know and what's kind of been whispered about. Because even those girls from like, was it the drill squad, are like, yeah, so what if she has fire powers? That's fine. Like, what's she going to do? We're going to be outside. What's she going to do? Set fire to a baton? So I'm sure all of that just made Wheeler just kind of feel like, I like why he feels the need to be the one to take upon this mission. Who knows? But I think just the being challenged, and he's probably been kind of seen as obsessive and crazy regardless, especially because he's the one that's brought up such a point about Jentry being so responsible for it, but everything not really going the way he wants it to be. He wants it to kind of be the witch hunt is what he wanted it to be, but it never fully turned into one. So, I mean, once again, it's also understandable. Like, the fire she started sadly caused a massive amount of damage. Now, we also don't know what fully went down 8 years ago. Jentry believes herself to have done, but who's to say like there couldn't have been more to it, I mean, for all we know, like maybe it has something to do with Michael. We'll have to wait to see, because obviously we find out his parents definitely know more about it. It was like those powers just don't come out of nowhere. Now we see that Gentry's powers were kind of given to her. They weren't naturally born. They were powers she was given because Gugu put the Yellow Emperor's powers inside of her. Who's like Michael's powers might be like, who knows, either like a family curse thing, or like that might be like something that's passed down hereditarily. But it doesn't seem like his parents have powers. But the moment they found out he was having these visions, they started freaking out a little bit. It's so interesting because for him, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. The first time I'm telling you what I want to do, and you're actually listening to me now, and you're actually saying like, oh, like we shouldn't go to the game because you said, well, why take the chance? Like, we should stay here. He's like, what's going on? It's like, what, you've known this entire time. What do you know, and why have you been hiding it? So yeah, that's the thing for adults. They think they're doing right by you in Gugu's case, as well as Michael's parents' case of they think they're doing right by you by like hiding the truth from you, which is so ironic considering like both Gugu and Michael's parents did what they did to like Michael and to Jentry and Michael respectively. Of they wanted to mold them and who they wanted them to be, whether it's Flora wanting Jentry to be like her, or Michael's parents wanting him to go down the path they wanted for him. Whether it's like, oh, we think you'll have a more successful life, you never have to worry about anything, this is something you're good at, and you could have a bright future because of it. Once again, best of intentions. Flora's very, not always the greatest of intentions, because like I said, there seems, as we kind of discussed last episode, it seems like there's more selfishness rather than altruism behind her decisions, but there's still some realm of we're thinking we're doing something that's for the betterment of your future. That's at least their thought process. So either way, I did like that Michael does finally tell Jentry about the powers. He's like, right, so kind of this awkward thing of you no longer have powers, but I'm kind of not someone with powers, so yeah. Because he had a vision of a sword in his hand. It's on the football field, and he sees Gentry. I think she was wearing what is essentially the robe that the Yellow Emperor's powers were in, but he sees like her dead body, and it's like stabbed. And I was thinking like he's going to be worried that he's the one that stabbed her, but if you look at it, you're like, no, it's most likely Chang stabbed her because that's what it looks like when he what happened with Pang. Like we just saw a recent death by like Chang stabbing someone. So because it's been a while, obviously, but I can't remember. I mean, because I know like she got stabbed, but I think it was by Chang's like bladed fingers. Like I think that's also how Gugu died, if I remember correctly. So. And on top of all of this, we also have the situation with Kit, who is becoming very obsessive. Because for him, it's like, okay, now that Gentry is normal, now we can put that all behind us. Like, I don't have to worry about Chang. She doesn't have to worry about Gugu. Like, yeah, he thought, like, right, after everything last episode, you saw me build all this stuff from, like, skin and stuff, and it's like you're more okay with it. I didn't talk about it, but he was like, oh yeah, it feels good to be able to do this with someone else. Like he's always kind of been a solo thing that he had to keep himself, but now it's like, oh yeah, you know all there is to know about me, so like it's easier for you to embrace it. So he made her a mom, but he made it out of like human flesh and stuff. But for her, it's like, yeah, I want to leave all the supernatural stuff behind. That means I can't move on with a normal life even with you. Like that, I'm grateful for your help, Kit, but this isn't the direction I want to go. And because of that, because Kit has put so much on her, because it's like, right, I like you. You're the first person that ever accepted me. And it's like he can't let go because his entire identity of what it means to be a person is tied to her. So he's become very obsessive, and it's like, no, we should be together. So every step of the way, all throughout the week, he's kind of like stalking her, being very aggressive. And she's kind of like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go to the dance with Michael. I figured that was going to send him spiraling, especially because he has Chang being the devil on his shoulder, being like, oh yeah, I told you this was going to happen. You thought she'd accept you? No. And so this is feeding into that fear more and more, and it's his wanting to get what he wants, and he gets super aggressive and gets super scary, and he's like, fine, you should get what you want. And I was like, okay, so we having that. I brought it up, was it last episode, the way he was staring at the robe. I don't know if he grabbed it that night, but no, he definitely didn't, because he went back to get it the next this episode. So no, but he looked at it and he was focused on it. But I had said in that episode, I was like they say, his character arc didn't go the direction I thought it would. Like I said, I thought he'd side after episode 6. I thought he'd side with Chang and then come back around to be a good guy. He kind of tried to stay a good guy, and this episode is the episode he kind of turned, because for him it's like, okay, she rejects me, and then like, fine, you're the reason why, like, I thought I could be a human. I had need a soul. Like, you told me all that. I bought into it. You're the one that built me up and kind of made me feel better about myself. And now, like, it's like, right, we could be friends. It doesn't necessarily mean we need to be like, he couldn't just accept like living a normal life, like I said, because for him, his happiness and everything it means to be human is tied to Gentry. And so for him, it's like, no, it has to work out because you're the person I'm in love with. You're the only person that's ever accepted me. So... And because of that, he decides later on, like, yo, I'm going to make my deal with Chang. Because it's like, if I didn't get Gentry at the end of the day, at least this way she doesn't have to die, but I also get what I want. I'll get the human soul. So it all, as Chang puts it, everyone wins. As we see, that's not the case. Because other elements to the story, we had Ed going back home after like spending time. He was like, oh yeah, like in the woods, I slept there. I got attacked by a possum. I mean, and that's because I was trying to give you space because I'm a good friend. He's like, I mean, not the fight with the possum. He started that. But then like he goes and finds the demon book and sees what Gentry had wrote in there. She had wrote like scratched out like some of the bad stuff it said about beings like Ed, and kind of wrote more positive stuff. And even he recognizes, he's like, oh, it really was my fault, because he recognizes like what he's done. And it's like, right, you were a good friend to me, and I kind of betrayed that trust doing what I did. But then the ghosts approach him and they're like, yo, we found out what happened to Gugu, and like she was taken by her ex, which you're like, oh, interesting. we found out in episode 7 they worked together because Gugu used to be a ghost hunter with them, but knowing that, oh wow, have a very, very like you have some interesting exes, don't you? But I mean, hey, Gugu lived her life, right? So, and being a Taoist priestess probably came with like a lot of the craziness that is this world, which makes you wonder, was like, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I guess it makes sense, your connection to the probably supernatural world, that you would date a guy who's basically the warden at a ghost prison. You know, kind of feels like it's not that out there in the grand scheme of things, considering their lives, but they need to be able to get back to the Zhang to, get Gugu out. And so they need more ghost essence, which is what was used for that device. And to get ghost essence, it seems to be very excruciating. I guess it'd be the equivalency of getting bone marrow from a ghost. Because one of the ghosts, basically, they take a garrote and slice into his head, but it gave them a little bit of juice that they could get in. But Zhongki, knows who they are because he can smell and recognize Ed. They tried to get in. Every single one of them got caught, including Ed. So, and the sad thing is, Jentry is none the wiser, knowing the house is completely empty now. She thinks Ed just went off, not knowing he came back home because she was at school at the time. Ed didn't think about that, but I guess he thought with everything going on, she wasn't going to go to school. But yeah, just a lot happened while he was gone. So it's just everything that can go wrong has gone wrong and spiraled out from here. So like I said, Jentry goes back home and she's like, fine, where's the robe? And she wants to at least use some of that power to be able to talk to. It's like, if you're not going to talk to me, fine, but I need you to talk to me. Because she's like, I'm sorry I said that I wish that you had died, but it's like, I'm mad at you, and I got a lot to figure out, but I miss you. Once again, only family she has left and that she can at least even communicate with. And it's like, you're not talking to me. It's like, I'm gonna go to the game if you at least. I hope you're there in some shape or form. And it's like, once again, being none the wiser, is like her not having her powers has kept her out of the loop of everything that was going on behind the scenes in this episode. So circling back to Kit, he gives the robe over to Chang. He puts it on and gains all that power. And he just, I guess he's always kept her body real close. Was it Xiaolan, his daughter's body? I guess he's always kept it real close. And so pulls that out, kind of unwraps her, and tries to open a rift into the other world to try and pull out her soul. But it wouldn't work, but he pushes even harder. At first I thought okay, it's going to close and his hand's going to get cut off, but it's like, no, reaches even deeper and he's ripping it open more and more. And it's like, well, he doesn't care about the consequences as long as he gets what he wants. But it's also like, who's to say you're bringing your daughter back? How do you know it's not some other spirit that didn't just hijack your daughter's dead body, or that forcefully bringing your daughter back this way might twist and contort her soul into something you don't even recognize. So we do see by the end, there's a giant portal opening up, kind of like Michael has seen in his vision a few episodes back. So all things are popping off. But it's like, why would Chang, not unless that's his daughter running rampant after everything, because I was like, why would he go after Jentry and do all that? But it's like probably the bounds between the supernatural world and the human world, that doorway has been ripped open because of what he did. And you probably need Gentry's powers to be able to close it, which Chang has those powers, but probably closing it would mean his daughter would automatically go back. Maybe her staying in the body only works because those boundaries are so broken right now. Who knows? We'll have to see how that all shakes out and plays out. But this is also on Kit doing what he did out of his, once again, a lot of people making selfish moves. But I mean, being selfish, if that's not human, we're all selfish in our own regards, Gentry wanting to be what she wants. And it's like, is that because being selfish isn't always a bad thing. It can be, but it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes it's like, hey, I want to live the life I want, especially after finding out the truth about so much lies and manipulation in your life. And Kit just, can't accept Gentry saying no. So it's just, once again, it's just, his selfishness got the best of him in this regard. So wanting a normal life is fine and dandy, but the problem is, it's like, well, if I can't have that life with Gentry, then fine, whatever, I'll just be selfish and get what I want in the end, But I mean, also, it's like, right, win about it because it's a win-win because now Gentry doesn't have to die and he gets his soul like he wanted. You know, it's like, right, she gets to live her life, get what she wants to be happy. I will too. But it's like getting that soul won't change. You know, once again, you got to fix a lot of your internalized guilt and stuff about all the stuff that you've done over the years, all the lives you killed, you know, the people that rejected you, you ultimately killing. Like, there's a lot there he needs to deal with that he hasn't properly dealt with. That's why it's like, yeah, you're not really in a position to be with Gentry, considering, like, right, you have centuries of trauma that you have to deal with, and pain and anguish and anger that you haven't properly dealt with. So trying to jump into a relationship carrying all that baggage, you know, that's a lot to try and jump into a relationship with someone who's trying to figure stuff out. And then finally, you have Wheeler putting Gentry on blast at the football game, trying to be like, yeah, look at all this footage. It's her. She's a monster. Because once again, it's something in the school that they've heard about, but I think seeing, like, even the girls, they're like, yeah, we know she's a fire monster, whatever. Like, maybe they didn't actually fully believe her being the fire demon girl, but maybe they now do. But it also, it's like, it's a difference between hearing about it and seeing it, because it was such a, hey, a lot of them were super young at the time, so yeah, it might have impacted their lives, but it's such a distant thing, and the little things that have come up with Gentry, it's like, it's never fully affected them, but like everything being cut together to show, like, oh, this is how dangerous she is, she's bad, she's this, she's that, and the crowd literally turning against her is everything Gentry was scared of. And Wheeler's like, oh yeah, like her getting a little nervous, that's when her powers kick in. Ironically enough, this proves it to people, like, oh wait, is something supposed to happen? And now it just looks like he's bullying a little girl, which he is, regardless of her powers or not. Like, he wanted, once again, turn this into a witch hunt, and it didn't play out the way he did. All you had was a girl in the, like a teenager still, but still a little girl, like in the middle of a field, crying her eyes out just because she's so alone in that moment. Because it's like, right, everything going on at home and everything is, I finally have a normal life, and it's just not what I wanted it to be. I hoped that it would be. So that's so heartbreaking and crushing. And the moment you would want her to have her powers is when everything's going on. Once again, yes, a lot of this stuff coincides with Gentry being back in town, but there's so much supernatural stuff. Once again, the Alamo episode, that situation predates even Gentry's existence. That was like 30 years ago that those ghosts from the Alamo pop. So it's like a lot of the supernatural stuff has been here. It's just a matter of it's only bleeding over now because of Gentry, but it's always been there. You just weren't aware of it. So, but now it's a situation of Gentry doesn't have her powers, and now you're going to wish that she did so that she could defend you. It could be a thing of they'll probably be like, oh, all this other supernatural stuff happened that maybe Gentry was, maybe they'll paint the narrative of, oh, she was here defending us, which she was. So maybe that narrative kind of gets created. You know, now it's like, oh, some supernatural stuff is going down that's not related to her, that, oh, you know, so we'll see. For this, once again, to be popping off in like episode 9, for the episodes to turn to what it is, it's so interesting considering, like, you'd expect this to be like closer to it. Like, I mean, we're already like 4 episodes away from the end, but like, you'd still expect this to be like maybe episode 11 or 12, like for there to still be episode 10 and 11, then 12 and 13. It's like, what's going to go? I mean, to be fair, there's a lot to get through, but it's like, yeah, we're in that final chunk or the final arc, and really it's going to be interesting to see what else happens, how this all gets played out. I'm assuming we found, because I thought this episode was mainly going to deal with Gugu and Iris, because I thought, like, you know, I thought them kind of being reunited, and, you know, maybe Gugu trying to break out of the Bishi, but it's like, no, maybe that could be next episode while still dealing with everything with Chang unleashing on the world. We'll ultimately have to wait to see how these next 4 episodes end up getting structured out and play out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.